Sports Finally community, we are back with our regular segment where we speak to great people from the world of sport. And today it is no different. I have Mr. John Beam from Laney College. John, how are you, sir?
I am doing fine. Thank you. I'm fired up to be on the podcast. I'm fired up to share whatever knowledge I have for those many people who would like it and value it.
And I'm fired up to have you on, sir. John, before we get into the current nitty-gritty day-to-day activities, let's go back in time. Who was John as a young man at school?
I was a guy that gregarious personality that knew everybody. I was friends with everybody. I still, to this day, one of my best friends, since we've been friends since second grade, I still talk to him at least once a month. He's in Atlanta. I knew everybody. I blended well with all different races and cultures. And so, I just kind of was able to shift back and forth throughout my time in school.
Very, very well. So as a student growing up, what was your favorite sport? What did you spend the most time doing?
I grew up in an era when you played all the sports, right? So my first organized sport was baseball. And then I played Pop Warner football and basketball. And then I actually played soccer for a while, but I grew up at the beach. So I was a body surfer, a little bit of surfing, So I've always been around anything outdoors, right? We actually played hockey, not ice hockey, but street hockey. We had neighbors up the street that had 5 boys. They were, the mom and dad were raised in Canada. So they were great hockey fans. So I remember going to the San Diego Gulls games, right? The little minor league hockey. So I played it all. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I rode motorcycles, dirt bikes, a little of everything.
Very nice. As an AD, athletic director, we're students and people from the outside are always interested to hear about the day-to-day. What does John's day-to-day look like? What does it entail? What does it involve?
Now, we talking now COVID,
of course,
or pre-COVID?
Both, actually, because I would imagine
they're a little different now, obviously. So I get up in the morning. Every day my wife and I start with a walk. We do a 3-mile walk. So that just kind of clears, gets me up and moving, gets us to rebalance ourselves and get moving. And then first thing I do is I open up my iPad, and I usually got somewhere between 50 and 100 emails I need to deal with.
Wow.
With COVID, most of them I'm going to be on a bunch of different meetings because I represent different entities at our college. I'll be on college, Zooms about COVID and protocols. I'll be on a league-wide for my other sports. When I say other than football, I'll be meeting with them on COVID, and then I'll do something with football, the state organization, or to talk about COVID and things of that nature. Once I finish with that, then I'm looking at any things that need to happen as far as making sure coaches get paid, making sure their stipends, making sure they're doing what they need to do or they're supported in what they need to do. Then I go and start looking at facilities, what's happening with facilities, new facilities that we need to bring in, facilities that need to be repaired, what's going on. And then I'm looking at eligibility, new eligibility rules because of COVID, right? What are they going to mean to everybody, right? And then the last part is that I'm going to work on recruiting. How am I getting our student athletes to the next level? What's that going to be? And then it's lunchtime, right? Which is a piece of string cheese, some almonds and blueberries, and an apple. And then we start now with my actual football team. I'll be Zooming with them and checking on them, how they're doing in class. What do we need to do? Once I finish with them, then I'm going to meet with the academic support people on our campus, right? What are we doing to support our student athletes while we're on COVID, while we're out and about? Then I'm going to start looking at new training ideas. What are we doing training wise? 2 days a week, I'll actually go on campus and meet with my football team for conditioning. Then I'll come back home. And now I'm looking at how are we helping our student athletes with financial aid, food insecurities, housing insecurities. And then it's dinner time, basically. And then I'm going back, and all during that time, as I'm meeting and talking, I'm learning how to I multitask because I'm reading emails and answering text messages and try to get phone calls. And sometimes I'm actually on 2 or 3 Zooms at once. So I have, one time I actually had to go to work in my office so I could have my desktop up and running and 3 iPads going at the same time. So I can, manipulate all the different things that were happening.
Wow. Phenomenal. Insane. Coach, how has your methods as a football coach changed during COVID? I mean, I know other than Zoom, how have you been able to manage these kids and keeping them away from getting COVID? Because right now it's everywhere.
Well, I think coaching wise, it's tough. My style is hands-on, rapport, talking, joking, hugging, cajoling, whatever. That's hard to do on Zoom, you know what I mean? Or phone calls, right? Yeah. But at the same time, to keep people safe, my number one thing is to keep them safe and their families safe. So I'm looking at ways to, mitigate what's going on. So if they have food issues, right, we're trying to find free food for them. When I say free food, meaning food banks or community bank outreach, things like that. With jobs, guys need jobs, so we're helping them find jobs. I'm networking with my resources, my colleagues out there, the people I've grown up with for 40 years of coaching that are ex-players that can help, give folks jobs. Next, what I'm doing is making sure they have the technology that they need, whether it's an iPad, a laptop, a hotspot, things of that nature. And so, again, and then I'm just trying to make sure that when we talk to them about COVID, we give them a little quiz. We tell them about the protocols, right? Washing your hands, having a mask, 6 feet apart, trying to get them to understand that. And it's hard for young people, right? When you're an 18, 19, 20-year-old, 21-year-old, you believe you're invincible, right? That nothing is destructive. This is not going to affect you. And I try to explain to them is that, okay, you're right. Nothing's going to affect you. But if you do get COVID, you take it home as an asymptomatic person, and you're going to take it home to your granny, your auntie, your uncle, your dad, your mom, your cousin down the street, whatever, right? That's who you're protecting. They are vulnerable. You're right. You're not. So let's not worry about you then. If you don't want me to worry about you, I'm not, but let's worry about them. Are you worried about your granny? They say, yeah, coach, I'm very worried about my granny. Okay. This is why we wear a mask. This is why we stay 6 feet apart, right? This is why we wash our hands. Every time we go in or out of a building, right? Carry hand sanitizer with you, get a wipe. But I said, the easiest thing is just use soap and water. It's easy, it's effective, right? And so, those are the things that we're trying to turn into habits, right? Things that they do automatically all the time.
There you go. Makes a lot of sense. You've been in the world of college and college sports for many, many years now. What would you say have been the biggest changes over the years?
I think when you look at it, it's technology, right? It's social media, it's instant feedback, good or bad, right?
Yeah.
I think there's so much of that. I think exposure, when I'm on Netflix and I'm doing what I do every day for 40 years, I don't think nothing of it, but turns out 18 million people watch it and are intrigued by it for whatever reasons, right? Even in Melbourne, Australia, right? You're going to reach out to me.
Absolutely.
And so, to think that has that much reach, that what you do has that much reach, right? You think you're doing it in isolation or in a silo, right? But really it's not. It's way more that's happening. So I think that's number one. I think number two for me in some ways is that, again, because of, media, whatever, people have so much time to look at things. I think people question coaches a lot sometimes, right? Everybody's a coach now, every parent, every neighbor, everybody, right? So they know all the best things. And it's fine. You listen to it, but it's kind of interesting, right? Could you see all these parents going into the dentist's office telling the dentist that they're not putting the braces on right? Or, you're not filling that cavity correctly?
Exactly.
They wouldn't, but they feel they can do that. As a coach, I have a degree. I have a master's degree. You know what I'm saying? I go to a lot of seminars. I go to a lot of clinics. I go to a lot of things to make sure that I stay on top of my craft. And so, and I do that. But I understand now for a parent, if you want to talk to me about your son or daughter, I have no problem with it as long as you're asking about their well-being. But as soon as you start asking about playing time or strategy or, whatever, then I don't have time for that, right? When you've done as long as I have, then we'll talk. But as far as well-being, if you want to give me some insight to what's going on, that would be awesome, right? If you see, behavior that's at home, that's not consistent, let me know. Cause then I want to work on that. I always want to work on helping young people become better, healthier, right? And so those are behaviors, those things that are going on. I need to know that so I can see what's happening, right? To get a better feel.
Yeah, unfortunately nowadays you have the internet's really given people this idea that they can easily become experts through YouTube videos and reading articles and so on and so on. It's a real issue across the board, not only in college coaching or sport, or even now people are doubting medicines, people are doubting doctors, people are doubting the whole shenanigans as they call them. So it's definitely a real issue. The one thing I'd like to ask you about is the actual students themselves, the athletes that participate in your program right now. Many coaching tips, advices, as you said, are really accessible. Have you seen it's impacted these kids at all?
Yeah, I think it does, right? Because good habits are out there, you can see, right? For instance, there are guys out there that are NFL players that, one of the things that everybody thinks about these NFL players, they were just gifted athletes. No, they're gifted workers. They were athletic, no doubt, right? And you can see some of them put the work in, and you can see that. And I'm familiar, obviously, because of from the town is Damian Lillard, right? The basketball player. And he's put some stuff on social media, like him working out. And it's just, when you see the work that he puts in, there's a reason he's the best in his business, right? That effort that he puts in, the grueling things that he goes through. He's doing boxing. He's doing, it's on the treadmill going backwards, sideways. He's doing these heavy balls. He's doing all these different things that are outside of the normal realm to make himself even better. You see that. You see a DeAndre Hopkins, the best receiver maybe in the NFL, doing things, right? And so you can see that. And if you can pick up on that, that's huge. And I say this kind of jokingly because during the pandemic, when we were locked down and I couldn't get out and do things, I caught myself watching YouTube, right? I never really went there. So I learned about, how to grow an avocado from a pit, or I built these garden boxes with my daughter, like, okay, how are we going to make the soil better? So there are a lot of instructional things out there. And I think those are good, right? But those are self-improvement, right? And I would love for a player or, to say, hey, coach, what do you think about these videos I'm looking at? I said, hey, they're good. If they're, these are good things for you to look at. But I also say, video yourself so you can see yourself, right? And see what effort you put into your work, right? Then if you can look at it, you go, wait a minute, I don't look like I'm working as hard as this guy. Exactly, right? So you can do some comparison, right? We don't see ourselves enough, right? We see what our mind sees, but we don't actually see it. I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking at the other side, as they say, the grass is greener on the other side. Let's move into a hot topic that's been brought up a lot this year and is expected to be a key focus point next year. NIL, name, image, likeness. There's been a lot of talks about this being the next best thing for young kids. It's going to change their lives. They can make money, so on and so on and so on. But it can also work the other way. I mean, it can have kids veer off track, get distracted with all the money side of things. So, Coach, from your perspective and what you've seen over time, take us through how you think NIL will be great for these young ones, and what potentially could be a few issues that might arise.
So number one is that I want to, the NIL, when they look at it, it's for all athletes, student athletes, right? But is it really, right? Number one, who are the ones that are, it's going to be in college here in America, it'll be the football players, it'll be basketball players, right? A handful of swimmers, maybe, maybe a couple elite soccer players, a baseball player or two. But when we look at the majority of them, they're going to be young men and women of color, right? People that have been exploited their whole lives, right? And so for a change, they're going to get the fruits of their, quote, labor, right? They're going to be able to market themselves, right? They already have. The colleges have. The NCAA has. We've been exploiting them for, when I say we, being society, has exploited them for years. You know, every time you go to a big football game or basketball game, like for us it would be a bowl game out here, right? You go to a bowl game, they bring all the boosters, all the big donors come, right? And they have them sign footballs, and we give them a signed football, we give them a signed jersey, right? And they write a check to the college, right? We exploit that. So why shouldn't that athlete be able to sign the football and get the money or the jersey? And I'm just being honest, right? Let's look at it. We're looking at it at the community college level. First of all, who's going to pay a community college person? But all right, let's just assume they do. Last chance, dude, we had Dior Scott.
Yeah.
He's living in a car, for God's sake. That's not right. We have rules that say I can't help him. I can't give him food. Okay. But now we're going to say he can't make money. Now, think about it. He's now pretty famous because of Last Chance U. You don't think people want to help him?
100%.
But he's now at University of Hawaii. He can't get that help. Why? Had nothing to do with University of Hawaii. It's what people want to help him feel for what he's gone through, his mental health struggles, right? And so that's what the problem is with this, right? Years ago, there was a receiver at Colorado named Jeremy Bloom. I'm pretty sure that was his name. And he was a youth, as a young guy, a big-time skier, and made money skiing and had a skiing sponsorship. But he went to the University of Colorado and wanted to play receiver. Well, they told him he couldn't keep his money from skiing. God's sake, what does skiing and football have in common? This guy had money coming in. Well, that was what he was good at besides football. He was a good football player too. You know, that's wrong. If we go to any campus right now, are you in the tech business? What was your major? What did you do in college?
Marketing and management.
Okay, so marketing. So you're a marketing guy, and if you want to go out there, you can hustle, make some money, can't you? When you were in college.
Yeah, of
and
course.
if you were in the musician, right, you could go do side gigs, right?
Yeah.
And get money, right?
Yeah.
And if you're in computer science, if you built an app, you could sell it, make millions of money, right?
Yeah.
So why can't an athlete do the same thing? Why are we punishing them for being athletic? Why are we treating them differently? In essence, we're segregating them from the normal population, what the normal population can do on a campus. That's wrong, right?
Absolutely.
Especially when you look at what those athletes look like, right? They're black and brown. Come on now. That's wrong. We need to work on that. And this, to me, is a way to balance it, right? In a little ways. And so, yes, they should be able to do that. Remember, what is that? You get your 5 minutes of fame or something, like 15 minutes of fame. Well, as an athlete, your window of stardom, if you want to call it that, is very minute. It's finite, right?
Absolutely.
I tell people all the time, it's finite. So strike while you can, reap it. Now, what I would like us to do is take the NIL and spend time on teaching people how to do financial literacy with that. What do you do with the money, right? Don't go buy some new Beats or some new Jordans, right? Or a car that you can't afford. Let's put it in the market. Let's learn what a mutual fund is. Let's learn how the stock market works, right? Or maybe it's something as just simple as real estate, simple real estate. Let's buy, an apartment, right? Instead of paying rent, have someone pay rent to you. The point is, Ty, we know that money's going to come in. So how are we preparing these students? Because they are students. How are we going to help them? I saw someone put a post up the other day about something about how did learning about trigonometry or quadrilateral triangle work with trying to figure out how I'm going to do taxes this year with COVID, right? And again, when we look at the racial divide that's happening in this country, when we look at the separation of wealth, right? It goes back to education. We need to be teaching people how to make wealth and hold on to wealth, right? And we're not doing that.
There's the old famous saying, make money work for you, not you work for it.
That's
So
exactly true, right?
yeah, it's you raised a valid point. We wouldn't have had Facebook if Zuckerberg was not able to make money during his college years and all these platforms basically. So
Well, maybe would have been better off without Facebook. But the point is, a college player may be big in his college town in whatever sport and be able to monopolize it, but never or monetize it, but will never be able to do that and never make it as a professional athlete, right? So why not allow them when they're there to make a name for themselves and also monetize it versus the college is monetizing it?
Yeah, the college communities are pretty big, so there's definitely a chance there for them to become popular and famous in that area. So yeah, I mean, it's good that the conversations is being had now, and these things are developing, and platforms like our own are out there, and others to really help them. Um, Moving forward, three pieces of advice that you would give to students on monetizing NIL or just NIL in general. And what I'd like to hear from you is the potential, as they call them, issues. So not just the positive side of earning. So what could happen to you as a student? What are you vulnerable to? Because there's always going to be sharks, especially early on when something's ripe, it's new. There's going to be sharks that are going to appear and try and really, unfortunately, take advantage of these young students.
Well, I think there's a number of things that you have to look at. Number one would be the financial literacy piece, right? If you are making money, what are you going to do with that, right? And how you're going to do with it. That's number one, right?
Yep.
Number two is don't forget that as you're doing this, you still got to go to class every day, right? That's still got to be a priority, right? So let's we got to prioritize, put it down on the list. What are the things you want to do? The next thing is that I think for all of us have to worry about is that, you want to be able to monetize yourself, then you better monetize yourself on the field or the court or wherever, right? Because if you're not, they're not going to pay the last guy on the bench any money for his likeness, right? So you got to keep the grind going. But the drawbacks that I see is that we're going to see exploitation again, right? I want you to just think about this for a minute, right? I'm going to go recruit a student athlete, right? And I'm telling them, hey, you come to my school, you come to University John Bean, Two Clap University, and we have the best academic support. We have this brand new weight room. We're going to play before 100,000 people, all right? You're going to get all the tutoring support you need, the newest helmets, all right? And we have a car dealer that's going to support you and market you on their site. Well, really? He hasn't even done anything yet. So I think that's where I worry about. Big programs are going to have their boosters try to find a way to pay these student athletes to follow these rules, right? And let me just say this. I have not read the rules, right? Because I think we should let players do whatever they want. But what's going to happen is the bigger schools that have the bigger boosters will find ways for their boosters to pay folks for their image or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I think that's going to be, so they're going to just be exploited by another group of people, right? Again, another way. And when I say that is because they're going to make that promise. The kid's going to pick Two Clap University, go there. The booster, you don't play. The booster says, I'm giving you no money, and you're stuck here at the place you didn't want to go anyways, right? Versus picking a school for the other reasons, right? The best support, the guy's going to, the program's going to help me grow the most and support me in my growth, wherever that growth may be.
Valid points. That could potentially happen early on, but hopefully that it actually won't. It's about minimizing damage, as they say. Coach, thank you very much. You've been amazing. Before I let you go, where can people find you online?
I'm at Coach John Beam on Instagram. I don't know. I guess that's where I'm at. I don't even know where I'm at all the time. But let me just say this. First of all, thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate it. And I always end everything with a simple little thing, right? Have you seen the show? So we got to do this before we go. All right, 2 claps. Ready?
Ready.
Come on, you gotta get with this. Let's try it again. Let's do it again now. Here we go. 2 claps. Ready? Yeah, excellent.
Absolutely.
I think it's awesome. Thank you for what you're doing. Thanking for what you're accommodating to allow young people to see and to learn what's going on. So I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Coach. I really appreciate having enjoyed joining me on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.